Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, I'm in the south of France. Yep, it's raining again. I'm here for the launch of the new XDiavel. Now, this bike has been long coming, really. I mean, the old 1260 Diavel seems like it's been around a long time, doesn't it? And of course, 3 years ago, they brought out the V4 Diavel. Well, this is the XDiavel. So this is the replacement for the 1260 XDiavel. So based, obviously, the V4 engine, the Gran Turismo engine from the Multistrada. We've got the same swinging arm as what is on the V4 Diavel, but the whole rest of the bike is new. So in this video, we'll go through all the details of this machine and, more importantly, what is it like to ride. So if you're interested in a little bit of cruiser action, then this could be the video for you. So set yourself down, make yourself comfortable, and drop seat, roll the intro. Well, here are the motorcycles. That is quite a lot of Diavel, XDiavels, all lined up, ready to go. Should be an absolutely superb day today. Now, I absolutely love the standard V4 Diavel. I've ridden the 1260 XDiavel before, loved it, but obviously that's a massive V-twin, very, very different from the V4 model. And chatting to the guys last night all about this new bike. Obviously we had a technical presentation, and I hope you can hear me all right, because it sounds deafening. 30 or so Diavels on tick over, but this bike is 90% new compared to the V4 Diavel. And last night a lot of the focus was comparing this bike to the 1260, and for me, I was more interested in the comparisons with the V4 Diavel, because I considered the V4 Diavel as a bit of a cruiser. So what separates the XDiavel from the V4 Diavel? Well, we'll jump on in a minute and I will explain. I love the smell of carbon dioxide in the morning. Oh, that's comfortable. Comfortable with the forward controls. Takes a little bit getting used to forward controls. New screen, basically the same screen as what is on the Panigale and new V4 Street Fighter. That 6.9 inch jobby. Obviously slightly different displays compared to the Panigale, but you still get the G-spot, the little G meter, and your power and torque layout. So yeah, the electronics really are a carryover from the Panigale, so that's all completely different to the V4 Diavel, because obviously that's got the slightly smaller, older display. I think the switch gear is the same. It does feel quite different actually to the V4 Diavel. I don't know if it's just the fact that you've got the forward mounted controls that make the riding position feel so different, but the rear does feel lower, definitely more of a cruiser feel to it than the standard V4 Diavel. The same engine as the Diavel V4, it's basically the Gran Turismo engine, so you know, derived from the engine which is in the Multistrada V4, and exactly the same as that. the power is amazing. That's something which really impressed me with the V4 Diavel, because the bike's long. You can just give it a handful and it just buggers off up the road. The pickup on this thing is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Obviously, you've still got the 240 section rear tyre, but the way one of these things accelerates, and this is actually 25mm longer than the V4 Diavel, so I think that's just due to the rake. The 29-degree rake as opposed to a 26-degree rake has just pushed the front wheel out 25mm, so you're even longer, so it's going to put even more of that power down without the traction control intervening or the wheelie control killing the power. So I suspect you can do sort of first gear launches on this more or less at full power, and it will put all that power to the road. So this is what makes this bike so, I mean, this feels faster than a Panigale, you know, in those first 3 gears, because it puts all that power down without the electronics having to limit it, because of the length of the bike and the fact that it's got 240 section rear tyre to put that power to the tarmac. So I don't think there is a quicker feeling motorcycle off the line than a Diavel. They've got 23 bikes out today, so we've got 23 XDiavels touring the streets. I mean, what a sight. If you see one of these on the road, it's an amazing looking thing. To see 23 of them riding past. What a sight and what a sound. So the riding position, pegs are forward. You can get a mid-mounted peg if you wish, but that is an extra. There's also some adjustment on these front pegs. You can move them forward by 10 mil or back by 10 mil. They're in the mid position at the moment, which feels pretty comfortable for me. I'm 6'2", 20 stone. But yeah, the riding position is nice. My arse is sort of fully cupped within this seat. They've also made the passenger seat much more comfortable. There's 50% more foam on the passenger seat as well. So, you know, as this is a cruiser bike, you're more likely to carry a pillion. So they've addressed pillion comfort as well. You cannot help but feel cool riding this bike. You cannot help but feel cool. Cruise control comes as standard on this one, which is nice. The unmistakable sound of a V4 Ducati. While we're on the motorway-ish, let's see if we can work out how to use the cruise control. I think you push that, so you don't get separate buttons, but you get, there we go, set. Hang on, what's the G spot? Let's have the G spot on, so we can, there we go, so we can see how many G's we're pulling, so how many G's we pull on a full launch. We've hit a bit of mountains. Look at that, look at the views to the left there. Sort of riding up here, not all on camera, but the handling is absolutely superb. You know, a bike this long has absolutely no right to handle as well as this. Compared to the Diavel V4, it's a little bit slower steering. You can definitely feel that, you know, an extra bit of rake has changed the dynamics of the bike. There's definitely more of a cruiser feel rather than a sort of hyper naked feel to this, and it is a little bit slower to change direction because of the rake and the extra length of the bike, but you can still absolutely rally this around the corners. It has no right to handle as well as this, absolutely no right. And some of the little hairpins, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to the pegs are going to touch down in a minute. No such touchdown. Like 39 degrees of lean angle you can have with these forward mounted pegs until they touch down. If you go mid-mount on the pegs, you get 41 degrees of lean before there's any touchdown. So yeah, 40 degrees more or less of lean angle is pretty sufficient for any cruise, isn't it? The quick shifter is a little bit notchy. I'm struggling a little bit with the shifter. It's a little bit notchy, so that's a slight little bit of a criticism. You know, whether you really want the quick shift on this sort of bike. It's all right once you get third and above, it'll be fine then, but sort of first to second to third, there's a little bit of a notchiness to the shift, but once you're above third, let's say, it seems much better. But that could just be me and my big size 12 clumpers. So much overtaking grunt, it's just like a little squirt and you're gone, you're past anything. So much power, so much drive, so much grip as well. You know, you're not so much mechanical grip, you're not leaning on the traction control. As I said, because it's long, it just puts all that power down. That's what's most impressive about this bike. It's just the way it accelerates and the drive you have with this engine. It's incredible. Look at the view here, stunning. This is Route Napoleon. I have done this before on the GSX S launch. Absolutely incredible bit of road. The poise of the bike is just so lovely. The suspension's gorgeous, very plush. Marzocchi front forks, Sachs rear shock. Yeah, it's got a lovely poise to it. Watch those wet patches. You do not want to go over there. Now that is quite the view. So now we've got a little bit of a free ride section where I think we can drive up and down here, ride up and down here to your heart's content. So I was going to put a few mounts on the bike, get some more dynamic shots. But yeah, really enjoying it. I think the biggest compliment to it really is to say it feels nothing like the V4 XDiavel. Does feel like a completely different bike. So this is what they're calling the free ride, where we can go out and have a bit of fun. So I've rigged up the old camera on the back to give you a bit of views of the back wheel, that incredible 8-inch back wheel and that 240mm tyre. So yeah, I'm impressed with it, and I say that the biggest compliment I can sort of pay to this bike really is it does not feel like the V4 XDiavel. It feels completely different to ride. It's much more cruiser-like, much more, yeah, and Ducati sort of said they sort of see this bike in its own segment really. Of course you've got the Rocket 3, is probably this bike's only competitor out there. The Rocket is obviously an insanely powerful machine, but it's not as agile as this. This is, and it delivers loads of torque, the Rocket, but it doesn't pick up and go quite like the XDiavel. You know, it's amazing the way a bike which is this long has no right to handle as well as this does, and that's the most impressive thing about it. You can chuck it around. Yeah, it's not quite as agile as the V4 XDiavel because it's longer, it's a tiny bit heavy, only about another 3 kilos, but it's that sort of the length, the increased length, and of course the rake changes does make it a little bit more lazy. The bars are a bit more lazy as well. But you know, you can absolutely throw this around, and what's so impressive is the suspension is brilliant. There's not much, when you go on hard on the front brake, there's hardly any sort of weight transfer. Obviously with a naked like this, you spend a lot of time on the back brake, sort of going into corners to pull it round, and it is very impressive, very impressive. I mean, you would struggle to keep up with this on some sports bikes, you know, and you've got that comfort. So we've been riding for a couple of hours now, and I feel as fresh as a daisy. Power! What do you reckon, Joe?
Oh, mate,
enjoying that? I can hear the buzziness of the conversation over here. He's loving it.
Now that the weather's sorting itself out as well. I mean, we've been through everything today, haven't we? But, yeah. I just had a little cruise, because they're cruiser bikes, right? A little cruise with Chris.
little tame little cruise.
Yeah.
It was
gentle, nice and gentle.
Easy, calm, no running wide, no getting in the gravel, and
he was conserving his front tyre as well.
Yeah, no front tyre wear. Which on this is pretty hard.
I was behind Chad, and he's like that. I was like, that's quite impressive, Chad.
How are you finding it, mate?
Oh, I love it, mate. Yeah, I really love it. Just my cup of tea. This is. I slowed right down to do a launch, like first gear.
Yeah.
Full throttle. It just goes, doesn't it? In first gear, full throttle.
Yeah.
It's like some sort of missile.
Smooth torque and then power and
the
gear, everything. No, I'm really loving it. It took me 20 minutes this morning to get used to that riding position.
Yeah.
It just felt a bit odd to start with, but now it's just lovely.
Very different to what you're used to, isn't it?
Very different to what I'm used to. A car.
At least the car's warm.
Yeah, could have done with the car earlier on, couldn't we? It was a bit nippy.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. How's that for a view? What I like about it is it's got, it's the quality of everything. On the V4 XDiavel, I did a similar test where you grab hold of stuff and you waggle it. It's all very solid compared to feels better screwed together, I think, than the V4. And I like the lines. I mean, look at the sweeping lines of the tank going into the seat. It's unmistakably XDiavel, isn't it? Unmistakably XDiavel. So this has got a cast subframe, where the XDiavel has a trellis subframe. So the actual swing arm is exactly the same as the XDiavel, but the actual front frame is different. As I say, the fork angle is also different. The rake 29 degrees as opposed to 26 degrees, and I think that's why it's 25mm longer, because of the different rake on the forks. Engine is all blacked out, of course, like on the XDiavel, and brilliant. 20 litre tank, same as the XDiavel, and the indicator. I like little design feature. The the indicators down here integrated into the intakes rather than on the bars. I think that looks better. I've turned off the wheelie control, but it's so long it doesn't really want a wheelie because of the length, you know. It's so bloody perb. I think it'll still come up over crests. That's right there. Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a bit of me, this. It is definitely a bit of me. First gear. Full throttle. Whoa, that's fast. That is sports bike Panigale speed. It's on the brakes hard. There's so much composure. And the brakes feel so much power there. They're not overly bitey. There's just loads of power, loads of confidence. I mean, that full front brake, it doesn't feel like it's loading up too much. Give it a little bit of rear as well to tickle it round. What's this? Yeah, it's just, I keep expecting to feel the pegs touch, but it doesn't. There's loads of clearance. Loads of clearance. I think you'd have to do a track day to get this thing touching down. Oh, that was a big old bump. What a thing. Yep, I like a lot. So while everyone is eating their lunch, I'll give you a little run through of some of the details of the XDiavel. So this colour is what they call burning red, and this is the first Ducati that isn't available in the Ducati Rosso Red. So it's the first Ducati they've ever made which isn't available in the Rosso Red. So this is called burning red, and there's also a black which is called black lava. It's back at the hotel. I'll show you when we get back. It's sort of a black but with a sort of brown tinge to it, but it's a nice colour this. The forward controls are actually adjustable, so as you can see you've got 3 positions. So this is in the mid at the moment, but you can move them forward slightly, you can move them back slightly, and as an option you can have the full mid-mount controls, which I think then plug into here. But that is an accessory. That's something you'll need to spec, you know, when you buy the bike, that you want the mid-mount controls. Here's the engine, that 1158cc Gran Turismo engine, which is the same engine out of the Multistrada. Obviously the tuning's different, the mapping's different, but it's counter-rotating, 168 horsepower, 126 newton meters of torque. 229 kilos wet, but without fuel. So 229 kilos wet. So not bad, is it? For a cruiser, that's pretty darn light. Slightly different at the back end compared to the normal Diavel. You've got little sort of grab rails here for the passenger. It has pop-out ones on the other Diavel, and obviously the back is different here. All the tail lights are built into here on the normal Diavel. This is a bit more conventional with this piece here, but still very well integrated. Still looks really cool. The wheels are also new on the XDiavel. Really nice sort of finish on these, sort of a diamond cut, but then they're also sort of clear coated over the top. I really like the wheel design. It's really cool.
I really like the wheels too.
You like the wheels? Oh, they're great. I prefer the round wheels than the square ones.
I hate them square ones.
They're shit, aren't they? Such a ropey old ride.
Yeah.
Chad's come to interfere. He's come to. What do you think? While you're on camera, what do you think to it then?
I really like it.
There's a fellow here looks just like Ricky Gervais. I don't know if I can spot him. I think he's in there. I thought it was Ricky. It's at the table over there. Look, you might just about. I'll zoom in. Ricky Gervais, a bit slimmer in the face, but when he looks round, if he does, it is Ricky Gervais's twin. You just missed the other looky-likey, Jasper. Russell Crowe just drove past. So that's lunch done, not bad. Had a little bit of gnocchi, no, not gnocchi, bit of gnocchi, and some salad and a nice sort of apple tart stroke pastry thing at the end with a bit of cream. Very nice indeed. So the XDiavel, what do we think? What do we think then? Someone who's very much into cruisers. I've never owned a cruiser, but it's definitely a bike which appeals more and more and more the older I get, you know. And I love the Rocket, I love the normal V4 Diavels. I don't know exactly what to call it. Thank you, sir. And the XDiavel is a lot different to the normal Diavel, so I'm very pleased to say, because I was a little bit worried that it was really going to feel exactly the same, and it would be like, well, what's the point? What's the point in the X? But the bike is 90% new compared to the V4 Diavel, so, and it feels very different. It is definitely more comfortable. I mean, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We've spent all day on this so far. I feel as fresh as a daisy. There's no discomfort whatsoever, you know. It's very, very nice, and it feels very different to the V4. I think the comfort, when I was speaking to the project lead for the bike last night over dinner, Gianluca, and we were sort of asking how long does it take to produce a new machine. He said, well, this has been in development for 3 years, and that's for a bike which is using an existing power plant. You know, if a bike has a new engine, it's a couple of years development just for the engine, and then sort of another 3 years on top of that for the actual bike development. So it's just 3 years to build this machine, you know, starting with the concept drawings, you know, the requirements of what they want the bike to achieve. And he said the main requirements for the XDiavel was to improve the comfort. It had to be, you know, a very comfortable machine that you'll be quite happy to spend all day riding, and they very much achieve that. It is incredibly comfortable, and even if this sort of, you know, locked in sculpted seat type bike, you know, sometimes they can get a little bit sore on your ass. Look at this here, look at the water down there, it's gorgeous. You know, sometimes they can get a little bit uncomfortable after a while in your lower back. I've had none of that, and I do suffer from a bit of a sore body at times, as some of you will very well know. The handling is, you know, for a big long bike, it's, you know, it's got no right to handle like it does. And what I like about the Diavel and bikes like it, you know, the Rocket as well, to some degree, I mean, it doesn't handle quite like this, but there's enough, well, there's certainly enough with this to scratch your itch. When you want a bit of speed, this can do it. So you're not going to think, well, I don't want a cruiser, but I'm not ready to give up, you know, that performance. I'm not ready to give up that touch of speed, that touch of hoonage from time to time. I may want to cruise around a lot more, but I'm not willing to give up the hoonage. And with this, you don't have to. Now, you can still hoon it around if you want to, and it will do it, and it's brilliant, you know, and it will reward you. It will scratch that hoonage itch, or it'll be a pussycat and you'll just trundle along with your missus on the back. You know, it is still a dual purpose bike, and that's what the V4 Diavel was to me, but that is definitely a bit more of a hooligan bike. It is a bit sharper than this, it does turn a bit quicker than this, but it isn't as comfortable as this. I don't think the finish isn't quite as to a higher standard as what this is. So, you know, you pay your money, you take your choice. So here are the accessorised bikes. So this is the Lava Black, and I don't know if it will come out in the camera, but there's actually a bit of a browny sort of reddy, well, I guess it's red, that's why it's called Lava. There's sort of a reddy tinge to the paintwork. Look, actually looks really nice. It would be my preference, but it'll cost you an extra £300 for the pleasure. This one also has the billet rims, the full Akropovich. This thing sounds incredible. If you want to hear this, I've actually got a video where I ride a Diavel with the full system fitted, so I'll link it up the top, but sounds amazing with that on. Dry clutch option, and some other little trinkety bits on this one as well, including some carbon fibre. The flame red version has some extras, the small fly screen. There's also a bigger sports screen option available for that as well. This one has the comfort seat, so a more comfortable seat for the ride, and the pillion, and it has the grab rails and the backrest for your passenger, and of course the luggage. So we've just got back, I've just had a shower, absolutely soaked riding back. It's such a shame because that Route Napoleon we did is an awesome road, but it was wet, particularly slippery as well coming through the town. And yeah, it's highlighted a couple of things though with the bike on the way back. First of all, in the rain, if the bike sat about, it actually pools with water in the seat. Where you've got the XDiavel badging on the seat, it's sort of recessed a bit, and that actually fills up with water, so you get a bit of a soggy bottom. The other thing I've noticed is, you know, I'm really, this is a fantastic bike, so I'm picking at a few little niggles now, but the fueling is a little bit choppy when you're around town, and that's been highlighted on the ride back because I've been going a lot slower because of the weather, and it's a little bit, I think one of the problems is you don't get adjustable engine braking on this bike for some reason, and the Diavel V4 is the same. You get no adjustable engine braking, so you can't play around with how much engine braking you have when you close the throttle. So it's a little bit on and off in town. And I'm talking quite slight, but on a lot of the new bikes or Euro 5 Plus, it's a little bit cleaner than that on some of the new Ducati range I've been using, but it makes it a little bit hard work in town. Not to say you can't live with it, not to say it's a huge problem, but it's just something I noticed on the way back, that it's not quite as smooth at sort of the lower rev ranges as perhaps it could be. Now I'm sure that's all Euro 5 Plus related, and if you fit the optional £6 Akrapovic, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. But it's just a little bit choppy, tiny bit choppy, and I'm clutching at straws a bit because I don't want to just sit here and say this is fantastic. So I'm just pointing out a few little tiny niggles that I noticed. But apart from that, absolutely love this bike. This is, I think, the epitome of what a sports cruiser should be. And I said it on the ride back, and I don't know if I've left it in the edit, but the thing with this bike is, and I'm sort of a potential customer for this because I do fancy a cruiser, but then I think if I get a cruiser, what about if I want to go a bit sporty? You know, you're giving up too much. Well, this certainly has a sporty side to it, as you've seen in the video, and yeah, it's absolutely sensational, this thing. It may be £26,000, which is a huge sum of money. It's £2,000 more expensive than the Diavel V4, but I think the quality of finish, I'm not going to tell you it's worth £26,000. I'm not going to tell you that, but what I can tell you, it's an incredible motorcycle, which, like the Diavel V4, can be sort of dual purpose. So it's certainly sporty enough to scratch that sporty itch without giving that up when you go cruising. And Ducati say this bike's in a class of its own, and I tend to agree. I mean, the Rocket 3 is obviously probably the only competitor to this, but this is much sportier than the Rocket. The Rocket is an incredible bike and it's got an amazing amount of grunt, but it's almost 300 kilos, the Rocket 3. This is 230 kilos. It's a huge difference, and that weight is why this is still sporty, because it's fairly lightweight. And Ducati have done a fantastic job on it, they really have. So that's it, I'm gonna go and get dry again now, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've not followed my channel before, please consider subscribing, liking, all that jazz, and keeping the YouTube gods happy. And until next time, keep it rubber side down. Cheers guys.